Mary Mats, creator of Twisted Yarns. I just couldn't resist giving our beautiful honeycomb blanket a little whimsy. So, for part 6, I'll show you how to crochet Buzz the honeybee. He is perfectly sized to applique right onto the blanket, and he's so much fun you may be tempted to make a few. Plus, if stuffed, he makes a delightful doll for the kids to fly from flower to flower. The companion pattern for Buzz is included with the Bee-utiful Honeycomb Blanket as a separate download. Just follow the link in the description below. For this demonstration, I'm going to use slightly lighter shades than the traditional brown and gold. That way, it'll be easier to see the stitches and pattern emerging. But for now, it's time to get busy. For the antenna, you want to start with chain 32. Then cut your yarn, and we're just going to use the yarn tail to make a little knob on each end of the chain. There is our antenna ready to go.
Make the legs before you begin the body. These 3 variations are easy to do. They all use a special stitch I call the fat slip stitch, which creates a joint. The difference between the upper, middle, and lower legs is the length of the starting chain and where you place the fat slip stitch. To make the fat slip stitch, yarn over the hook, insert the hook in the stitch, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. It's easiest to do this stitch in 2 motions to avoid the center loop from hanging up on the hook as it moves through the loops. Now let's make a leg. For the lower legs, chain 16, then starting in the second chain from the hook, slip stitch in the next 5 chains. 1 fat slip stitch in the same stitch as the last slip stitch, and then do it again. Then slip stitch in each of the remaining chains. That's it. For the middle legs, chain 19. Then starting in the second chain from the hook, slip stitch into the next 6 chains. 1 fat slip stitch in the same stitch as the last slip stitch, and do that again. Then slip stitch in each remaining chain. Now the upper legs are done a little differently. Chain 16, then starting in the second chain from the hook, slip stitch in the next 4 chains, then fat slip stitch in the next stitch, and do that again. Then slip stitch in each of the remaining chains. As each leg is finished, knot the yarn tails together, but leave them attached. Make 2 of each type of leg. The body of the bee is worked in 1 piece, but in 3 sections. Starting at the stinger, we first shape the lower body, work the abdomen, and finally the head. The legs and antenna will be attached as we go.
We're going to form a slip knot and chain 2. 1, 2. In the second chain from the hook, we're going to work 4 single crochets. Now I'm going to pull my yarn tail through the center and out the bottom, just so that I know that's my outside. In my first single crochet on round 2, under both loops, you're going to always work under both loops, you're going to work 2 single crochets. 1, 2. In the next one, you're going to work 1. In the next one, you're going to work 2. 1, 2, and in the next one, you're going to work 1. Now, see how the stinger is starting to form? There you go. We're going to mark the beginning of the row right now. I'm going to go in that, so I'm going to mark it down 1 row at the very beginning. Then I'm going to pinch the stinger together, and I'm going to mark the sides. So, since this is our beginning of the row, we're going to work over, and that's called work even, which is work 1 single crochet under both loops of each stitch until we get to the marker, or close to it. So I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to do an increase.
Well, an increase is simply working 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Then I'm going to work over to the other marker, and I'm going to place 2 single crochets there, which makes 2 increases. So when I finish this row, when I get to the beginning of the round, we should have 8 stitches. On row 4, we're going to change to brown. So whenever you're going to change colors, you're going to insert your hook. You're going to drop off your old color over your hook, and you're going to pick up the new color and finish a slip stitch with the new color. Then we're going to go back into the same stitch and work a single crochet. Now, our yarn tail is starting, and I pulled it really tight, and we're going to drop off and get the yellow out of the way because we already slip stitched to join it. Okay, just 1 single crochet in each stitch until we get to the side marker. At the marker, I'm going to work 2 single crochets in that same stitch. You want to stagger your stitches so that your increases are not right over each other, especially when you're making a doll. So here was the increase the row below. So I'm going to go to the next stitch and do this increase. Now I have secured that stitch because I've worked over it for this whole length. So we're just going to take that brown end and stuff it into the little body. And we're going to continue to the end of the round. So we've just done 2 increases on this row. So we now have 10 stitches. As you can see, all the shaping is done evenly at the side markers. Continue to shape the lower body section and change the colors as indicated in the pattern. I'll meet you then. So we're at the point where we're going to be adding the lower legs. Before you begin round 18, align the lower legs to the sides. Make sure the joints point upward on each side and pin them into place. You can tuck the yarn tails into the body to get them out of the way. Now this row is worked even. So all I'm going to do is work over to where that is pinned in place. And I want to make sure that I go in to the side of it. Stick my needle, there we go, right there, and go into the next stitch. This one is a U stitch, this one is the next stitch. Okay, pull it through and work a single crochet. I'm going to tuck those ends right into the body, and then I'm just going to continue on until the other side, and I'll do it again. Alright, here's where I'm marked. So I'm going to take that marker out, hold that leg right up against the next stitch, get these ends out of the way, and I'm going to insert my hook through the leg, get in there, not under the knot. You want to get down into the first stitch of the leg. There we go. Find the next stitch here, hold these out of the way, and pull up a loop and work a single crochet. Alright, so now we're going to continue to the end of the round, just like before. I'm going to continue and work over to the leg. So I'm to the stitch of the leg and the stitch after the leg, and I'm going to do a decrease. A single crochet 2 together, but I'm going to work the decrease under the front loop of this one and the front loop of the next stitch only, and I'm going to do it quite tightly so it makes a really nice little join. Okay, and then I'm going to continue on working under both loops of each stitch. And the reason you do the decrease that way is because the decrease is going to get thicker and thicker because you're moving a lot of strands of yarn together. But if you do it that way, you eliminated 2 strands of yarn under that stitch. So it doesn't bulk up, and it doesn't have much appearance at all. In fact, you can hardly tell that it's there when you feel it. It's nice and smooth. Okay, so let's do it again. We're getting over to the other leg. Okay, in the stitch with the leg, see how nice that went in? In the stitch with the leg, we're going to pull up a loop. Then we're going to pull up a loop in the next stitch, just in the front loops. Yarn over and pull through all 3. So we just did a decrease right over that leg, and then we're going back to working under both loops. Now this is our last round of brown. We're going to slip stitch and finish that round. Now at this point I am going to cut my brown, and I'm just going to continue with the yellow for a little bit. And this is how I like to secure my end. I don't really have to weave it in all the way. I just need to knot it a little bit, like right here. And then I like to weave it under a couple of strands, maybe just 2 or 3, so it gets covered on the next row. And then just take that end and tuck it to the middle. So before I go on, I am going to thread up one of the yarn tails from one of the legs, and I'm going to inspect this to make sure that it is nice and secure. So I'm going to bring it to the outside, and I'm by stabbing it through the leg. Now this is so nice and neat, I don't even really have to do too much. But if it wasn't, if there was a gap or something, this is where you would use your yarn tail to secure that leg a little bit more, and also is make sure that it's nice and even. Now you can only do this like 1 or 2 rows after it is. I've worked over to the legs, and I'm going to, once again, when I do a decrease, I'm just going to pick up the front loop only of the next 2 stitches and work through those and complete it. The next one, pick up a loop, insert into the next one, pick up a loop under the front loop only, and work a decrease. And so here we've just done the nice little decrease there, and we can continue on. I'm to the point where I need to add my second set of legs, the middle legs, which are the longest legs.
Work even over to the leg. Because we are attaching the leg at the same time as decreasing, we will work this a little differently. Insert the hook through the leg and body, going under both loops of the body. Pull up a loop very tightly. Then insert the hook in the next stitch under both loops and pull up a loop tightly. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Then work even over to the other leg and attach it in the same manner.
I'm going to insert in this one here and pull through and slip stitch. Now I'm going to cut my yellow. I'll secure it just like when I cut my brown, I secured it, but I'm going back to these legs right now and use these yarn tails to secure these legs a little bit more. Before we go on, I just want to point out this is the time that you move the center marker on the belly, and these 2 markers can be removed. You can leave them on if you'd like, but you know these are the sides because the legs are coming off. If you're turning this into a little doll, you want to stuff this cavity at this point, just softly. And I'm going to do that on this variation. You're going to be starting the abdominal skirt with 12 chains. In the second chain from the hook and working in the top loop only, you're going to work 1 single crochet. 2 single crochets in the next chain, 1 half double crochet in the next, 2 half double crochets in the next, a double crochet
in the next chain. Two double crochets in the next chain. One double crochet in the next. Two half double crochets in the next. One half double crochet in the next stitch. Two single crochets in the next. And just like we began, we're putting one single crochet in the last stitch. So that gives you this curved little piece. Okay? So now, the object is we want to center it over this edge. Now this is the back. This is the back of the bee. So we want it to be like a little collar. And it goes over the legs. So I'm just pinning it into place. Now we begin this row. And we begin this row right here. So take the yarn tail end and leave it hanging on the outside. The feeder yarn, we're going to insert our hook right where we have put our markers. So we're going to pick up that first stitch and right into the markers. So we're going to do a single crochet. And then we can remove the marker and go into the next stitch and into the next stitch. So we're working through both thicknesses. So there is the abdominal skirt, and look how neat that looks. We're going to continue along this edge until we get to the brown. When we get to the first stitch, we're going to insert our hook there, and we're going to slip stitch, but we're going to be slip stitching with our yellow. And the reason is we need to change colors right here. Now we're going to chain one, and we are going to work one single crochet in each stitch, but on the sides, right over the legs, we're going to increase one on each side. On this row, we're going to increase two, one on each side. And since we're at the side, because there's the legs, we're going to just do it right away. We're going to align the third set of legs. But this time, the joints point downward and the curve is upward. Add up really tight, chain one, and then continue by working a single crochet. And in this case, this is going to be a row of evenness.
Reposition the beginning of the row back to center belly and pick up the brown from the inside. Continue the remaining rows to shape the head.
But now we're going to rapidly decrease. So I'm going to show you how to do this. On the first row, we're going to single crochet 3 together at each end. You want to find the center 3 stitches on the side. And there's the legs, so this I think are pretty close to it. We could move down one, but I think this will be fine. We're going to insert our hook under the front loop only of the first stitch, pull up a loop. Insert our hook under the front loop of the second stitch, pull up a loop, and under the third stitch, and pull up a loop. That leaves 4 loops on hook. So then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4. So then the next row is going to be even more rapid. And we're going to decrease, we're going to work a single crochet 4 together at each end. So I'm going to work over, and so since it's 4 together,
We're going to count off 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. That looks pretty center. So we're starting already because there's less and less stitches each row. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we have 5 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through all 5. Wasn't that easy? Now we work over to the other side where we have to find our 4 stitches. 1. This is the time to stuff the head and abdomen. We are just going to end off our yarn, but I'm going to leave myself an ample yarn tail. This side is the belly because that's where we changed our yarn. And this side has the abdominal skirt. So isn't that cute? It adds such a dimension to this little doll. Okay, so now it's time to deal with the antenna. We've already prepared them. And we're just going to put them in the top of his head. Pull them out to the sides. And we're just going to stitch through the antenna to hold it into place. And go back over to this one and just grab those stitches because we're just closing the top of the head. One thing that little bees have, and since this is the doll and not the applique, for the applique we keep him nice and flat. We don't put any stuffing in because we're going to sew it onto the blanket. But for the doll, little honeybees actually have a little snout that they suck up all the nectar from the flowers. So with this yarn tail, we're going to bring our yarn up near his nose, where a nose would go, and we're just going to go back and forth and tighten it up so he has a little bit of a pucker there. Now this is the applique for the bee body, and you can see we have 2 wings, and they're a right and a left wing. But they're made exactly the same way except the finished edge. Then, for the doll, because we want to be suspending this or having it to do something else, we need a stiffer wing. So, I use pipe cleaners to stiffen the outer edge. It's made exactly the same way, but the technique on the edge is a little bit different. Now we're going to chain 8. So we're going to count back 6 chains from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the chain we want to work into. We're going to double crochet into that chain. Then we're going to chain 1 and work a double crochet into the next chain. Chain 1 and a double crochet into the last chain. And we are going to turn, but we have 1, 2, 3 spaces. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to double crochet into the next space, which is right there, and chain 2. And we're going to do this in each space. That's the start of the turning chain right here. So we're going to count back 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because we need to put a double crochet into that particular stitch. And because we're working with double crochets or into the space already, these are blocked so you can't count these very easily. So it's easier just to count back from where the chain began. Work the next few rows in a similar way. I'll meet you then. All the trebles will be placed on the end stitches on this side only, not on this side. These will always be double, so it keeps me on course. So now we're going on to row 6, and we're going to chain 4 and turn. We're going to do a treble in that very first space. And then we're going to chain our 2, and now we're going to do a double crochet, chain 2, a total of 5 times in each of the next spaces. We're going to skip the last space and chains and end with a double crochet in the 3rd chain. Now we're on to row 7. We're going to chain 5, 1 turn, 1 double crochet in the next space, and chain 2. And we're going to do that a total of 6 times. We're going to end with a treble crochet in the top of the turning chain. So, yarn over twice and insert that hook in that last chain at the top and work a treble. Chain 4 and turn. We're going to do a treble and a chain 2 in the very first space. That's 1 treble, chain 2, and then we're going to work a double crochet, chain 2 in each of the next 5 spaces. That we have an extra space here, so we're going to count back 1, 2, 3 and do a double crochet right into that chain and finish that row. Now we're on to row 11. We're going to chain 4. We're going to skip the first space and work a double crochet in the next space, chain 3. Then we're going to skip the next space, and in the top of the very next double crochet we are going to slip stitch. What that does is finish the lower lobe. We're going to continue across this and build this side up a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to chain 3. And we're going to work a double crochet, chain 2, 3 times. We're going to skip the last space and end with a treble crochet in the top of the turning chain, right there. We're going to finish off the top lobe of the wing now. So we've chained our 6. We're going to skip the first space. We're going to double crochet, chain 2 into the next space, and we're going to double crochet, chain 3 into the next one. And all we're going to do is go to the top of the turning chain, and we are going to slip stitch into it. We've just finished the top of the lobes of the wing. So now all we have to do is do the edging row. For the applique, continue with the edging without a wire, as it will be sewn to the blanket. To make the right wing, you would turn it over and start working your edging along this edge, come down here, come back here, and end there. If you're doing the left wing, you would just continue on going this direction and end here. For the doll, edging will be worked around a pipe cleaner of similar color. For each wing, join 2 12-inch pipe cleaners by overlapping them 2 inches and twisting them together. Then, shape to the wing. When you're working and covering a wire, you do have to place enough stitches to look finished, but not too many. The upper edge of the wing is the treble crochet side of the wing. Place 3 to 4 single crochets in each space. At the top of the lobes, in larger spaces, put a few more stitches. In smaller spaces, put less stitches. Place 2 to 3 stitches in each space along the lower edge of the wing, as these are slightly smaller spaces formed by double crochets. No matter what you do have to use your judgment on this. The temptation is there to place too many stitches in each space. If you do, the wing will get stretched out on the edges. Now I'm going to pull my stitches and tighten them up against each other so I can shape it a little bit. Let me just make sure I have the same size outline. Yeah, I think so. It's pretty good. They may be just a little bit different shape, but that's okay. Because, after all, it's flying. You have to make those aerodynamic adjustments. When we get to the end, what we're going to do is we're going to twist these together because I have like a couple more stitches to do. So they're twisted. Once I check my wings, they're pretty close. Okay, now one more stitch. And I'm picking up the stitch in that first one. Then I'm picking up the middle stitch on the bottom edge. And I'm just coming over, and I picked up my yarn tail too. So I just did an extra double thick stitch. And there is my wing shape. So I'm joining it so that there's about a ½ inch between each end of the wing. Work a row of crochet right around this hump. So you want to make sure the top of the edge of the wing is facing the head and the lower lobes are facing the back, and the right side of the last row of the trim row around the pipe cleaners are fitting like that. Use a double strand of yarn to securely sew the wings to the yellow stripe just above the abdominal skirt. On the applique, you just sew the wings right to here. Buzz, 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 that's my name.
Thanks for watching the video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy crocheting!